Okay, this video is about spreadsheet functions. So if you were absent on the day we went over that, you want to make sure that you're watching this. Or if you just need kind of a reminder of how they work, feel free to watch it as well. Functions are an important part of spreadsheets that you want to make sure that you understand. Essentially, what they do is they make formulas easier. So here's an example you'll see on your screen. If I was wanting you to add up the numbers that were in cells B1, B2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so far we have learned how to use formulas, and that's where you put the equal sign, telling your program this is a formula. You put the cell address of the first cell you want to add up in this case. Then you put the operator. Okay, so this is a plus sign. I'm wanting to add these together. I put the next cell, an operator, the next cell, an operator, and so on until I get the entire formula typed out. The problem with doing a formula like this is that typing all of these things, you might make a mistake. It's pretty easy to make a mistake. And then you can have a very long column of numbers that you need to add up. And this would be very tedious to have to type all of this in. So spreadsheets have things called functions that allow you to simplify how you add up or multiply, divide, whatever it is you're doing. Whatever math function you're wanting it to do, functions simplify that a little bit, and there's less typing for you to do, so you're less likely to make a mistake. So for example, this is a function, equal sign sum. In spreadsheets, sum is the function that you use to add things up. And then inside the parentheses is the range of cells that you want it to add up. Okay, so the anatomy of a function is always the same. It has the equal sign, what the function is, and then inside the parentheses it has the range of cells that you want it to do the function to. In this case it is summing or adding up these cells, B1 through, remember the colon is through, the comma is and. So if I were to put in B1 comma B6, I would only be adding up what's in cell B1 and what's in cell B6. With a colon, that is through, so that means I'm adding B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, and B6. Okay, so that's what a function is. Now we're going to practice doing functions. So if you will make sure that you open your practice file that we've been using in class, yours will be called your last name practice. Mine is called video Newton practice because I'm using it for this video. Okay, so you have some tabs down here, basic math, patterns, and formatting. We're going to be working on the basic math section. Okay. All right, one of the first things that we want to look at, and I'm going to just make my screen normal size for a second. One of the first things we want to look at when we start talking about functions is this key right here. Okay, this is your function key, and if you use the down arrow next to it, it gives you the 5 most used functions in spreadsheets. Okay, you'll notice the first one is the one that we just talked about on our example slide, and that is sum. So the sum means to add up. The average function takes a set of numbers. It adds them up and then divides up by the number of numbers you have to get the average. Count does simply, excuse me, I didn't mean to click on that. Count simply does what it sounds like. It counts up if there is something inside of a cell. Then max gives you the maximum number in a set of numbers, and minimum gives you the minimum or the smallest number in a set of numbers. And then one of the things we talked about in class is there are tons and tons of functions. So we went ahead and clicked on more functions just so that you could get a concept of how many functions there are. This is the Google Spreadsheets function list. And you will notice there is a way that you can filter them out and you can narrow them down. But what I want you to do is just kind of glance at this. This is very, very intensive. It has a lot of functions. Some of these you might never use because they're kind of a higher math thing or a specialized math thing. But I want you to know where the list is, so in case there's some day where you're trying to figure something out, you know how to get there and look up a function. Okay, we're going to use very basic functions in here. So the functions that we use are general basic math functions. They may fall into a couple of different categories, but generally they're in the math category. And what this function list does is it tells you the type of function it is. It gives you the name, and then this syntax column is very helpful because this shows you how you will use it on your spreadsheet. And this will make more sense as we practice one of them. Okay, so I might just change this to sorting it by the name instead of sorting it by the type. And then let me try to filter this a little bit. Okay, so for example, we had been talking about the sum function, okay, in our example slide. And this shows you in syntax how you can use the sum value. It gives you an example here with sum, and then in parentheses it tells you value 1, comma, value 2, comma, and this just means and so on. So what you have to remember here is the comma does mean and, not through. Okay, so that's where you can learn more right here. Okay, and they'll explain that to you in descriptions. But I just wanted you to see that this is how you find it. So let's go back to your spreadsheet real quick, and we'll actually start doing some of these. Okay, let's do this. We are going to be working with the 5 most popular functions. We're going to practice those, and then we will add on a few others. But we need some space over here. So I'd like you to click on cell A1, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a column to the left of our column A so we have some room to work. So when you're clicked in A1, you're going to do Insert, and you'll notice up here are some choices. Row above, this means row above your active cell or the cell you're clicked in. Row below the cell you're clicked in. Column to the left of the column you are clicked in. And that's what we want. So go ahead and hit column left, and you will see that a new column A appears. It is blank. We didn't lose any of our data. It just shifted over to column B, C, D, and so on. Now remember, we had done formulas on all of this. If you click in your cell D2, when we first did this formula, when the number 5 was still in column A, our formula looked like equal sign A2 plus B2. Notice when we added in that new column, the spreadsheet automatically updated these formulas. So whenever you need to add a column or a row, the spreadsheet is programmed to go ahead and take that into account, and it adjusts the formulas that you've put in. So you don't have to redo your formulas or anything. So another way that it helps you save time. So we're going to be working on cell A11 first, and we're going to type in sum function. Okay, that's what we're going to work with first, and then we're going to work with average. Okay, notice that the average function over here is spilled out a little bit into my column B. Remember, it's really important if that happens while you're typing that you come up and you expand column A. You don't just skip over. So we're going to make everything fit into our column A. Hold your mouse between the line between the A and the B, click, drag across, and now everything fits inside of there. Okay. On A13, you're going to have count function, and then 14 is maximum function. A15 will be minimum function. Okay, so we're going to start with the top 5. So click in cell B11. If I were going to add these up, the way we had learned before, just using a formula. I would have to go equal sign B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus, you get the idea. This is very tedious and takes a long time, and I could easily make a mistake. So let's just do it with a function so you can see how it works. Okay? So the first step is to make sure you are clicked in the cell where you want the answer to show up. And then you're going to come over here to the shortcut function button, use the down arrow, choose the function you need, which in this case is sum. And now you'll notice it's typing in for me. It says equal sign sum, and then there's parentheses with my cursor blinking. So right now I could type in on my keyboard B2 colon B10 and hit enter, and that would work out fine. But the other thing that is really helpful and saves time is when your cursor is blinking inside the parentheses, you can also just click and highlight what you want it to, in this case, add up. Okay, so it fills that in for me, B2 colon B10, and then I just hit enter. Okay, and I see the total there. So that's how a function works. Now what we'll do is we will go ahead and add up the rest of these columns. And the cool thing about autofill, which we have been using in a downward motion, autofill generally will work to the right as well. So we're going to try that. Make sure you're clicked on cell B11. Hold your mouse over the autofill handle till you get a skinny black cross. Click and drag to the right, and then release. So now we should be able to look in our cell C11. Remember, I don't grade this number on your spreadsheet. I look up at the formula. And it says equal sign sum C2 through C10. Okay? So it did update it properly. So it's great to use autofill whenever you think you can, but always double check your formulas to make sure that the spreadsheet did what you intended for it to do. All right, so the next thing we did in class is I just had everybody work on average, count, mix, maximum, and minimum on their own, and then we went over it together to make sure they had it right. So I would recommend you pause the video and do average, count, maximum, and minimum, and then play the video again as I'm going to go through how to do each one. Okay, the cool thing about this is everything's basically the same. When I want to put the average here, I'm going to come over here to the shortcut button, use my down arrow. I'm going to choose average. It fills it in for me, equal sign average. The parentheses are automatically put in and my cursor is blinking. So now I can click and drag down what I want it to average, or I can type it in. Okay, the important thing to remember here is my range that I'm working with is still B2 through B10. Don't include this sum function total in your average. Okay, we are working with B2 through B10 all the way through all of these functions. So then I hit enter, and now I'm going to use autofill to copy it over. Again, it's a good idea just to double check that it's doing what you wanted it to do, and it is. So same thing here. I'm going to make sure I'm in B13, down arrow, count. Now I'll type it in just so you can kind of see how that looks different. I'm typing in B2 colon B10. And again, it shows you, it highlights it, and gives you dotted lines around it so you can see what it's working with. And then I'll hit enter. I'm going to autofill this over. Okay, now look at that. We got all 9s across here. And for some people in class, this was alarming to them. They're like, oh, I shouldn't be getting the same answer, should I? Well, you should if you think about what the function is. The function is counting how many numbers you have in the range. Okay, so I'm going to have 9 numbers in B2 through B10. I'm going to have 9 numbers in C2 through C10. Okay, so this is correct. But I do want you noticing if you do something and you're like, oh, that seems like I shouldn't be getting the same answer, or this is an interesting result, you should ask yourself questions about it and see if you can figure out if it's right or not. Okay, max works the same way. Down arrow, max, highlight, hit enter. And then I'm going to autofill across. Again, you will notice that the maximum number in the list, because we made these columns with a pattern, we counted by 5s here and then we counted by 3s. The maximum is clearly going to be your row 10 because that's where your highest numbers were. When you do the minimum function, the opposite is going to be true. When you do this and minimum, because we did a pattern, we counted by 5s and then we counted by 3s. It will essentially be the first line. Okay, so those are the 5 most basic functions. And then, excuse me, what we did after that is we practiced some other functions. And we practiced the median function and the mode function. So we're going to go ahead and add those in. A16, median, A17 is mode. Okay, so you'll notice when we go to do the median function, we use the down arrow here, it's not showing up. Okay, so what you could do is you could go to more functions and you could search for the median function. I happen to know that the median function is median. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start typing here. I'm going to type equal sign and I'm going to type the M. Notice what happens. Your program is set up that it's going to start showing you all of the functions that are available to you that start with an M. Okay, so I'm going to keep typing E, and then median shows up. Okay, so this is my correct function that I'm looking for. So I just click on that, and then my parenthesis automatically pops in, and my cursor is blinking. So I can highlight or type in what I want it to find the median of. And we're still working with B2 through B10. Okay, and so remember that the median is the number in the middle of a set of numbers. So for us, this was 25 in this one. You can autofill that over, and then we'll head down to mode. Okay, mode, again, you could, it's not on your shortcut button, so you could go to more functions, or you could start typing equal sign, M, O. Notice that they're showing up here. I need mode. And it does give you a definition. See, when I hold my mouse over it, it's telling me the most commonly occurring value in a data set. That's what the mode is, in case you've forgotten. So we'll hit mode, and then I'll be able to type in B2 through B10. Okay, what you're going to see here is something interesting. This is an error message. In spreadsheets, anytime you have an error message, you will see hashtag and then something. Okay? So this one says hashtag N/A. And when I hold my mouse over it, it tries to explain to me what the error is. Mode cannot produce a result. No values occur more than once. So what this is saying is my formula is not wrong. This is correct. Equal sign mode, B2 through B10. What the problem is there is no mode, because this is supposed to, a mode is supposed to tell you the most commonly occurring number in a set of numbers. Well, look at my set of numbers, 5, 10, 15, 20. No number shows up more than once. So that's why I'm getting this error. So this is not, oh, you messed up, I need to delete this and redo. It's just meaning there is no mode. Okay? So let me just pop up here, and I'm going to change this B3 to 5 real quick so that you can see that my formula is correct. So when I come down here now, it's looking through B2 through B10 at all the numbers and which one occurs most often. It's going to be 5 because there's 2 occurrences of 5 here, and that's what it resulted on our spreadsheet. So I'm going to turn this back to 10, and we'll get that same error message. So if you get an error message like this when you're doing work for me, leave it in there, because that shows me, remember I'm grading your formula, not what's showing up on your spreadsheet. So we're going to go ahead and use autofill across. And all of these, we used a pattern. So we are not going to have any modes in these. But this one, the end one on division, we are going to have it because when you look up at our data set, 1.6667 shows up several times. So that's what our mode is. Okay. So those are functions, just a quick lesson on functions. The only other thing I want to say about this is make sure that you understand you use a function or a formula, not both. So here's what I'm talking about. Sometimes I have kids over here on B11. If you click there, we used a function to add up these numbers and these cells. Sometimes I have kids that will go equal sign sum, B2, and then they'll actually type out the formula in parentheses. They'll go B2 plus B3 plus B4, and so on. Okay, you never want to do a function and the exact same operator inside the parentheses. This is like double doing. You either do a function or you do a formula, not both in what we're working on, okay? So the correct answer over here is B2 through B10. Now when I grade you in class, if you are supposed to come up with the total of a column of numbers that's really long like this, you will need to use a function because that is the better way to do it. Technically, you could use a formula equal sign B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5 plus B6 plus B7 plus B8 plus B9 plus B10. But that is not the best way to do it. So if you typed in all of that as a formula, that would not be correct on your projects. I would expect you to know this in this opportunity or at this situation, I should use a function so that I don't have to type out all that other stuff. Okay, that is functions in a nutshell. If you need any help, let me know. Happy to help you.